On October 30th, 1961, the most powerful nuclear weapon in history was tested in the Russian Arctic, the Soviet Union's Tsar Bomba. In the early Cold War, the United States had an undisputed nuclear advantage over the USSR. The U.S. conducted the world's first nuclear test in July 1945 and dropped 2 nuclear bombs on Japan the following month, ending World War II. Some historians believe the decision to use the new weapons against Japan was made partly to intimidate the Soviet Union. Until missile technology advanced in the late 1960s, the Soviets lacked the capability to threaten the United States with a large-scale nuclear strike. The Tsar Bomba might have been intended to convince them otherwise. Soviet scientists began working on a super high-yield bomb in 1956. The first version of the bomb was ready for testing in 1958, but the test never happened. Relations between the two Cold War foes were improving somewhat, with both countries pausing all nuclear tests in late 1958 and Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev visiting the United States for 2 weeks in 1959. They were also in talks regarding a more comprehensive ban on nuclear testing. But it didn't take long for relations to cool down again. On May 1, 1960, a U.S. U-2 spy plane was shot down deep inside Soviet territory and the pilot captured. That same year, the United States started flying nuclear bombers near Soviet borders at all times in an operation known as Chrome Dome. A different group of Soviet scientists was ordered to resume work on the bomb. Among them was Andrei Sakharov, the nuclear physicist who would later become one of the USSR's most prominent dissidents and win the 1975 Nobel Peace Prize. It was Sakharov who suggested using lead instead of uranium in one of the bomb's modules, cutting its blast yield in half from the equivalent of 100 megatons of TNT to 50 megatons due to concerns about the amount of radioactive fallout that would be produced. That's more than 2,000 times the force of Fat Man, the 20-kiloton bomb that obliterated Nagasaki. Any goodwill towards the United States that might have been stopping the USSR from conducting the test disappeared with the Berlin Crisis in 1961. The Soviets issued an ultimatum demanding that all U.S., British, and French forces leave West Berlin and then partition the city by building the Berlin Wall in August. The USSR pulled out of the moratorium on nuclear tests in September, and Khrushchev announced that plans for a detonation were underway at the Soviet Communist Party's Congress on October 17, 1961. A plane that had been created with the original bomb in mind was brought back into military service for the test after being used as a training aircraft. A modified version of the Tu-95 strategic bomber, the Tu-95V, had its bomb bay doors removed in order to accommodate the huge payload. The bomb had a custom parachute system fitted that would allow the plane to fly far enough away before the detonation. The plane flew on October 30th, 1961, dropping the bomb over the Arctic island of Novaya Zemlya. It made it about 45 kilometers before the explosion, out of reach of the bomb's fireball. The mushroom cloud could be seen from a distance of 161 kilometers. The United States condemned the test as an incitement to fright and panic, but said it did not affect the balance of nuclear power. Anxiety grew over the increasing power of nuclear explosions, and the Cuban Missile Crisis brought the two superpowers to the brink of nuclear war a year after the Tsar Bomba was tested in October 1962. In an effort to slow down the nuclear arms race, an agreement banning all nuclear tests except those conducted underground, the Partial Test Ban Treaty, was signed in 1963.